Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into someone who didn't just live a long time. She seems to have consistently broken the known rules of biology for decades. We're taking a really close look at the life and, importantly, the science behind Maria Bronius Marrera. She was the world's oldest living person at 117.
Yeah, Maria wasn't just, a number on a chart. Her extreme longevity, we call it supercentenarian status, really presented scientists with a massive puzzle. It basically forced researchers to go back and question some really fundamental ideas about how humans age. I mean, living to 100 is one thing.
Right.
But defying biological predictions for almost 20 more years while staying pretty healthy, that's something else entirely.
And it's that resistance to prediction that I find so interesting. Like, the research community had these markers, these signs of decline they expected to see. And Maria's biology just seemed to, navigate around them. Okay, let's unpack this. What was the biggest biological contradiction here? What mission were researchers on to figure out how she thrived?
Well, we absolutely have to start with the most startling thing they found in her DNA. It's conceptually jarring, really, for scientists studying aging at the cellular level. Her telomeres.
Telomeres, the sort of cellular clock, right? For those listening who might not be deep in the biology, telomeres are usually seen as like the key marker for biological age and health span.
Exactly. Think of them like the little plastic caps on the ends of your shoelaces, the DNA kind. They stop things from fraying. Every time a cell divides, those caps get a bit shorter. And when they get too short, the cell basically stops dividing properly. It enters senescence. It's a stop sign.
Okay.
So short telomeres aren't just linked to the end of life itself. They're strongly tied to frailty, and specifically the big age-related killers, cardiovascular disease, cancer. For you, the listener, often knowing your telomere length is seen as a predictor of how many, let's say, unhealthy years might be ahead.
Wait a second. If short telomeres are the accepted sign of decline, how did they square that with Maria's data? Did they think the sample was wrong? Or does this just blow up the whole telomere theory?
That was definitely the initial reaction, that this just couldn't be right. I mean, the assumption for decades was that supercentenarians must have some way to keep their telomeres long, better than the rest of us. But the study suggests Maria Bronius Marrera's telomeres were actually much shorter than expected for someone her age. They looked like someone who, biologically speaking, should have succumbed years earlier.
Wow. So it's like her body was running on fumes, biologically speaking, for decades, but it found some kind of workaround for that cellular clock everyone else faces. That's what's just staggering. She lived so long despite having this major biological marker for severe decline.
What's fascinating here is, her cells gave them data that just flew in the face of decades of scientific expectation. Most people hitting their late 90s are dealing with multiple things: arthritis, maybe diabetes, cognitive issues. Frailty is pretty standard. Maria's resilience, her cellular resilience, suggested that telomere length, it's just one part of a much bigger picture. Other systems, maybe repair or defense systems, were compensating like crazy. Her body just refused to follow the script.
That leads perfectly to the next big question then. If she sort of defied the cellular clock, how does she keep up such a high quality of life? How does she avoid the illnesses that usually go hand in hand with short telomeres? Was it all internal or environment?
It really seems to come down to her internal defenses. They proved to be exceptionally strong. Researchers didn't just peek at her DNA. They collected samples, blood, stool, you name it, to map out her unique longevity strategy. And what they found was, the structural hardware, the telomeres seemed deficient, but other systems, unusually powerful. Her immune cells, for example, looked dramatically younger than her actual age suggested. Her ability to fight off illness, what we call immunosenescence, well, it seemed minimal.
Okay, so her body wasn't just hanging on, it was actively defending itself with youthful immune system. How much of that strength was pre-wired in her genes?
It really looks like she hit the genetic lottery, but in a very specific way. When they sequenced her DNA, they weren't just looking for live forever genes. It was more like they found genes that helped her massively avoid failure. Think of it less like picking winning lottery numbers and more like she picked all the safe numbers, the ones that helped her dodge the big disasters.
Like a built-in genetic hazard avoidance system. That makes sense.
Precisely. She had specific genetic variants that pushed her harmful LDL, that's the bad cholesterol levels, way down. And that's huge because keeping bad cholesterol naturally low over a century gives you this incredible advantage against your blood vessels aging, against stroke, against heart disease.
Yeah, that's basically stopping the slow, quiet damage that gets most people in their 80s and 90s.
And it went deeper into protecting her brain, too. The study suggests she also had variants linked to better brain performance pathways, helping keep her memory sharp. And crucially, she showed genetic resistance to the plaques and tangles we associate with Alzheimer's disease. So even with short telomeres raising risks elsewhere, her genetics built this amazing defense against the other big killers of old age.
Okay, let me try and synthesize that. Maria's edge came partly from genetics helping her dodge these specific genetic landmines. Her DNA wasn't maybe universally stronger, but it was really good at avoiding the most common crippling failures.
That gave her the foundation, the rare advantages. But the question is still there, isn't it? Genes are fixed. How did that advantage turn into decades of healthy living? Because genetic protection usually only takes you so far. What was she doing every day that amplified those built-in strengths?
That's the connection everyone's searching for, right? We know her lifestyle was, well, quiet, consistent, simple, but maybe the power was in how those simple habits worked with her DNA.
Her daily routines were marked by this incredible consistency over decades. Her diet, it was a traditional, no-frills Mediterranean pattern. Fresh vegetables, legumes, simple stews, lots of olive oil. And importantly, she didn't drink alcohol, didn't smoke.
And activity was pretty moderate, yeah. Not like she was running a marathon.
No, not at all. Steady, simple stuff, daily walks, just moving around the house. But here's the crucial bit that makes her habits so relevant. Lifestyle on its own usually adds maybe 5-7 healthy years, something like that. But in her case, the study suggests her consistent habits eating well, moving gently, they interacted with those protective genes, the low LDL, the brain resilience, and it produced this amplifying effect. The result was way bigger than either her genes or her habits could explain alone.
Can we unpack that amplification a bit? How exactly does eating vegetables, say, amplify a gene for low cholesterol?
Okay, think of it like this. Maria was born with a high-performance engine. That's her genetics. Now, if you put regular fuel in that engine, yeah, it runs a bit better than a standard car. But if you consistently put premium, high-octane fuel, and that's what the Mediterranean diet kind of represents here into that high-performance engine, well, you get a huge jump in performance and longevity. Her low cholesterol genes meant that the diet had a disproportionately powerful effect preventing plaque buildup, much more than in someone without that genetic protection. Her simple habits were like continuous, perfect maintenance for her specialized genetic setup.
That makes perfect sense. It's like a positive feedback loop. The healthy lifestyle constantly reinforcing the genetic strengths she already possessed. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at her gut. The microbiome often reflects overall inflammation and health, doesn't it?
Her microbiome. Yeah. That was maybe the most surprising lifestyle-linked finding. And the clearest example of this sustained maintenance effect, it essentially had a youthful signature. It looked much more like the gut bacteria profile of a middle-aged person, maybe someone in their 30s or 40s, definitely not a supercentenarian. Her gut bacteria were, biologically speaking, decades younger than the rest of her body.
Like a genuine biological time machine just living in her digestive system.
So what specific microscopic helpers were keeping things so youthful down there?
The big standout was unusually high levels of a beneficial type of bacteria called bifidobacterium. These guys are incredibly important. They help with digestion, they make critical vitamins, and crucially, they help regulate immune responses, specifically by tamping down chronic inflammation throughout the body.
And why is that so vital in aging? Because inflammation, that low-grade chronic inflammation, is at the root of almost every major age-related disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, you name it. And we know that as people get older, bifidobacterium levels typically plummet. Changes in diet, maybe weakening immunity, medication use, they all contribute. When these beneficial bacteria decline, systemic inflammation tends to rise and the immune system gets more vulnerable.
So her secret weapon against immune decline and inflammation was just having a really healthy population of bifidobacterium working hard for her.
Okay, how did she keep those colonies thriving for over a century? Was it some obscure herbal tea or?
No, nothing exotic. It seems to trace back to one simple, incredibly consistent daily habit. Maria ate yogurt regularly. That routine acted like a steady, reliable reinforcement for her gut flora. It wasn't some fancy, expensive probiotic pill. It was just consistent, simple fermented dairy. This daily habit helped her microbiome keep this vibrant, youthful balance, and that protection just radiated outward, shielding her whole system.
And you could actually see proof of that systemic protection in her blood work, I assume. Absolutely. Her blood test backed it all up, showed a cardiovascular system aging remarkably slowly, Low LDL, like we said, but also unusually high HDL, that's the good cholesterol. And her markers for systemic inflammation, minimal. Almost unheard of for someone her age. It all points to the idea that keeping her gut health strong provided this continuous, decades-long protection, keeping her way ahead of the aging curve.
This has been just an incredible deep dive. So Maria's life wasn't some random biological fluke, but more like the ultimate case study in successful biological management. A balance of rare protective genes,
Right.
a supportive diet, this incredibly resilient microbiome kept young by simple, consistent habits, and an immune system that just wouldn't quit.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Maria's journey is almost like a Rosetta Stone for aging science, because she demonstrates that even if you carry biological markers that predict decline, like those short telomeres, your conscious choices, your consistent habits, can literally redefine how those markers actually affect your life. Her habits weren't just protective, they were amplifying her genetic strengths.
Which really brings it back to agency, doesn't it? Her story fundamentally challenges that idea that aging has to be this story of sharp, unavoidable decline. It suggests that, okay, our genetics might be fixed, but our lifestyle can drastically change how those genes get expressed. Longevity isn't just locked away in our DNA.
Exactly. Resilience can show up even when the basic numbers suggest it shouldn't. Maria's life teaches us the key isn't necessarily finding one magic live forever gene, but maybe mastering the simple, everyday things that keep our internal system stable and keep that damaging inflammation low.
So what does this all mean? The blueprint for a long, healthy life, it seems, isn't some fixed script. It's a story we're constantly writing, maybe rewriting, through consistent choices. Maria Bronius Marrera kept core biological systems, like her microbiome, functioning like they were decades younger, potentially just by eating yogurt and sticking to simple, balanced habits. If our small daily decisions can maintain something as complex as our gut ecosystem in a youthful state for so long, what other parts of aging might we be able to influence just by making consistent small choices? Stay curious, everyone, and we look forward to the next deep dive with you.